Hello, welcome back to Learn It from a Layman. I'm Carl Christensen, back with Tim. I think I am awesome Cox.
How did you learn my real middle name?
It's a Danish translation of I don't know.
Well, now you don't have to give me your firstborn.
Wait a second, are you some type of like witch, wizard? Okay, I'm so confused. Today we're going to be talking about Tim's going to be presenting today, which we've had in the past. And despite our better judgment, we're doing it again.
Where?
We're going to have Tim talk about fixed versus growth mindsets, which I'm not entirely sure what Tim means by that yet. Tim didn't ever apparently grow as tall as he wanted, and I don't know exactly.
Yeah, a good whole lot of good a growth mindset did me.
Tim, though, tell us a little bit about what a growth mindset is versus a fixed mindset.
All right, and if this is boring you already, just stick with it. I promise we'll be punchy. I'll have some great anecdotes. It's going to be awesome, and you definitely want to hear this. I promise.
You do. And
Yes.
especially, you know what countries are listening in right now, Tim.
Ooh.
Just speak with a Norwegian accent. A lot of Norwegians have been listening recently.
Well, here's my problem. I've met a bunch of people from Scandinavia countries, and they all speak perfect English. So,
That's
here you
true.
go.
I know. It's crazy. Those Scandinavians, they learn English better than we do. So
cosmopolitan and kind and friendly, and
I know. It's hard to compete with.
I think it's just historical karma because their ancestors were Vikings. So, But Vikings were awesome. What am I saying?
Yeah. All right. Back to growth mindset.
All right. So here's the spiel. Now I'm gonna give a quick thing for if you work with kids, and then I'm gonna give kind of a spiel for how this can work for you, just for yourself, for your own personal use. But I'll start with kids because I'm a school teacher, so this is where I see this playing out a lot. And I'm sorry if I've talked about this before, but I just got to hit on this because I see it so often that we do our kids a real disservice by instilling in them a fixed mindset instead of a growth mindset. So here's what I mean by fixed and growth mindset. Fixed mindset is kind of this perception of people as a static, unchanging quantity, or you're an unchanging person. So
like a static character in like a novel where they have particular, like, just one set of emotions and thoughts. Right?
Yes. Yeah, and that's just who they are, and it's just who they are, and that's it. Versus growth mindset, which when you're still a growth mindset in a child, you're teaching them that they can grow and learn and change, that they can make mistakes and learn from them, and those kinds of things. You can imagine that on paper, obviously, a growth mindset is better. As people with a growth mindset are more likely to try things, to persevere, and they're less likely to feel threatened by failure because they have a framework of growth, which whereas a fixed mindset person is less likely to persevere, more likely to be frustrated. Now, it seems all obvious and stuff, and you're like, well, duh, of course I'm not going to tell a kid they can't change. But here's the thing. We have a lot of patterns in our society and in our discourse, the way we talk, that do tend to instill a fixed mindset in people. Let me give you some examples to kind of illustrate. And again, I'm starting with kids. I've got a bunch of little girls, and so I hear these kinds of things all the time, and people don't really think about what the long-term effects of this kind of talk. But for example, when you tell a kid, "Oh, you're so smart," or "Oh, you're so pretty," or "You're so cute," you're so good at sports, or whatever. That these seem like positive things, and they're not. It's not like the end of the world. But what happens, and what I see happen when I get kids, in my junior high school classes, is sometimes they've been told these kinds of things for so long and so much that they believe them, they internalize them, and it becomes a part of their identity, the way they see themselves. Um, and now, if you're wondering, well, what's wrong with? I think it's great if my kid sees himself as smart, or my kids, as beautiful, or whatever, right? Um, but the problem is that these these qualities that we highlight in people lead to a belief that success is due to who or what they are, and that it's entitled to their identity. So if I tell my kid, "Oh, you're so smart," and she does well in her class at school, then she thinks, "Oh, well, yeah, I did well because I'm smart. That's who I am." Um, and well, that's great. End of story, right? Well, fast forward to that time where she really gets challenged in a class, and all of a sudden she's not so smart anymore. She's failing. Um, this is an identity crisis for a kid. Wait, I've been told my whole life I'm really smart, but now I'm struggling in this class. What's going on? And you'll see different responses from a kid in that scenario. Some common ones are anger and blaming. So a kid in this scenario, we'll say it will take the "I'm so smart" fallacy, and now they're failing at class. A lot of times, a kid in that situation will blame the teacher, right? Oh, the teacher just hates me. They've got to reconcile their identity with the outcome they're having, right? And well, I don't fail classes because I'm smart. Therefore, there must be a problem. The problem must be the teacher. Teacher hates me. Or, wow, that I failed because that teacher just wasn't a very good teacher. They didn't teach it very well. You've probably heard people talking like that. Oh, yeah, I didn't get a good grade on that, but it was a terrible class, and I didn't really like it much anyways. And so, and what we've now done is we've set them up for failure, right? There's other responses someone might have in that situation too. Cheating is another common one. You'll get kids in this situation. I see this a lot at my school. Has a lot of like high ambition students, and so they're really driven to succeed. And you can see that they've been told they're smart, and that they know that that's the expectation from their parents. And so when they struggle or have challenges in a class, a lot of times they'll resort to cheating. They're just terribly afraid. My parents can't see that my grade get this low. I'm gonna have to copy off my neighbor, or whatever. They get desperate, right? And again, it's that their identity is based on the fact that I'm so smart, and if they can't maintain that, then everything crumbles, everything shatters.
Can I give like another example I think I've seen?
Sure.
At least I know I used to see this a lot, and it frustrated me. Is when, once again, kids are told that they're smart, and but that they just don't try hard. And so that becomes their identity, and therefore it's like, it's not that I'm not smart, it's just I don't try, and therefore, and then they just use that as an excuse for just mailing in like all of their grades and just doing poorly in school, because they don't want to try to then find out that, oh, actually it's hard work, and maybe I'm not as entitled to a high grade as I thought I was. So
Yeah.
I'm smart but I don't try. I feel like I run into that frequently.
Yeah, and that's a good example of another kind of response that people kind of retreat. Well, oh, I'm struggling in this class, and I've got to maintain this illusion. I mean, I'm not going to say it's an illusion. Maybe they are smart, but I've got to maintain this identity of being smart. Therefore, I'm going to give up, and now I can blame my poor outcome on that. And yeah, we kind of hand them that coping mechanism, which leads to once again to failure. Yeah, great example. I think that's a good one, or a bad one. It's a good example of a bad one. That's very common.
Yes, exactly.
And one other outcome of these things that I want to bring up also is a mental health effect. Depression, anxiety, These are things that, when an identity crisis occurs and kids don't have good coping mechanism to deal with it, then that's extremely, the dysphoria is severe. And this clash of reality and identity, it becomes very hard to handle, and that can lead to very down feelings about yourself. A lot of times what happens is you get this kind of breaking where a student or a person, sorry, I'm thinking as a teacher, but that things snap, and they say, well, I guess it was a lie, and I'm really not that smart after all. So and then you just go off the other directions. Well, I'm not going to try that, and so all sorts of negative outcomes from this kind of thing, right? I'm going to throw out one more that's a personal pet peeve of mine, as an example, and that is the "you're so cute, you're so pretty"
You get told that a lot.
comment. Yeah. Oh well, all the time. And then I grew up and became ugly, and it's been a horrible.
There's a reason this is a podcast. Let's just say that.
That's right. We actually wanted to do a video, but we got shut down by the consumer commissioner or whatever.
Yeah, they asked us to set in headshots, and then we were then sent a cease and desist order. So
that's right. It was actually, yeah. But anyways, speaking as a brother of 5 sisters and a father of 4 daughters, I see this a lot, and of course my daughters are so dang adorable. They really are cute, and and so we get this all the time. And I know everyone listening, if you've been around little kids recently, then you probably said, "Oh, you're so cute," or something like that. And okay, a little disclaimer at the beginning here: it's okay to call a little kid pretty or cute. Okay, I'm not saying that you should stop doing that, because I don't think that's going to happen. A grandma is going to, go crazy over her grandkids and buy them cute clothes and tell them they're so cute. Okay, but we have a problem as a society, especially with our girls, where we build in them a terrible example of a fixed mindset, where we place their value in their appearance. And so we build these girls up with this idea that you're so pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. I love how cute you are. And it gets into the minds of our little girls that this is important. How I look is important, and how I look matters to other people. 2 problems here. One, your looks is a fixed quality. It's not something that can be healthily changed, right? I'm just kind of an ugly bugger, and there's not much I can do about it other than try to stay in shape and get a good haircut, or try to dress nice. But anyways, what I'm saying is, we put our children, and especially our little girls, in a terrible corner where so for example, I'll give an example. A little girl is told she's pretty, told she's cute. She learns that's a key part of her identity, and then as she starts to grow up, she starts to put on a little bit of weight. Of course, very common. Obesity and is epidemic in Western culture, at least. So this is a very, very real scenario. She starts to put on a little bit of weight, and what happens? She gets really, really concerned. This is her identity. Her value lies in the fact that she is pretty, she is cute, and she has to look that way. So what do we see with our young women? A terribly high incidence of eating disorders. And I can speak from experience. I have a family member who has dealt with an eating disorder for a long time. What a terrible disservice we do to our kids, and especially to our little girls in this regard, by treating them and leading them to believe that they have a fixed and giving them a fixed mindset about who they are.
Right. And this, I think you already essentially did this, but that's, you can differentiate between like what asking and encouraging and recognizing a kid for being, or a person even for being, in shape and taking care of themselves and that type of stuff. And that's different than, identifying like, oh yeah, like you're pretty. And then if they don't feel pretty, then they're not worth anything. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
And someday we'll have to do a whole podcast on eating disorders and the way that our society frames the bodies of women, because I think it's a terrible travesty that doesn't get near the attention it should. And the attention that does get on the subject, I think, misses the mark entirely. And we see this problem continue, and it happens to men too. This kind of body dysphoria and eating disorders and that kind of thing, but it's not near as frequent because we don't put near as much pressure on our boys to look good, and that's where their identity lies. Yep. So anyways, and of course, from my own personal experience, I've seen this a lot more with girls. So anyways, now if I've done my job, then all of you are feeling really guilty about how you totally messed things up for all the people in your life and ruined them. So what do we do? And I'm going to give you some suggestions now. And first of all, again, I want to say it's not like we need to throw out comments like, oh, you're so smart or you're so pretty, but we need to spread those out and fill in a lot of better and more healthy stuff in between. That's like the candy, but we need most of what we're telling our children to be the vegetables and the lean meats and stuff. So what the solution is, a growth mindset. Instill in our kids a growth mindset. Rather than tell you what it is, let me just give you some examples of how you can do it. So when you see children, when you work with children, and this goes for adults too, adults need reinforcement as well. Instead of focusing on fixed qualities that can't be altered, like intelligence or looks, instead focus on qualities that are growth qualities. I'm going to recommend two, especially hardworking and kindness. Wallet, yeah. Wealth, monetary value.
Great sized wallet you have.
That's right. Oh, also Twitter followers and TikTok views. And likes. That's a good one.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, I interrupted the two actual ones that you were saying.
Yeah, that's right. Hard work and kindness. Now, here's why you're going to focus on these two qualities when you compliment kids and people in your life. One, they're universally accessible. If I am talking to a kid who, bless their heart, they tried, but they're just not the sharpest tool in the shed, it's going to ring hollow if I say, "Oh, you're so smart," especially as kids get older and they start to see more, and they'll be like, "Yeah, that's not a real, compliment." And if a kid, whether or not a kid is beautiful inside or out, if they don't really believe that, then you're saying you're so pretty, they're not going to feel like that's doable or realistic. But anyone can be hardworking. Anyone can work hard. Anyone can be kind. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that they have to believe that they're a hardworking person or they have to believe that they're kind. You just have to catch them working hard at something or catch them being kind in some instance and call it out and compliment them on it. So here's what that might sound like. Wow, you worked so hard on that. I can tell that that's important to you. Or, wow, thanks for sharing. I love the way you think about others. Just little things like that. So not only are those universally accessible qualities that anyone can demonstrate at any time, but they're also qualities that can be practiced. If no matter how much I practice, I'm not going to, in healthy ways, change my appearance. And if I'm not so smart, then I'm not going to raise my IQ with hard work. That's just not how it works. But I can work hard at something that's important to me. I can show kindness to people around me. So here's what happens when we start to highlight those traits. Instead of a kid starting thinking of themselves as, oh, I'm the smart kid, or oh, I'm the pretty kid, they start thinking of themselves as, oh, I'm the hardworking kid, or I'm the kind kid. And these qualities lead to success. Intelligence doesn't lead to success. Good looks doesn't lead to success. They can grease the gears for people who are already working to get there, but they themselves don't do it. But hard work and kindness, those hard work is a fundamental tool for success. Kindness is a fundamental tool for interpersonal interactions in society. Oh, sorry, you were saying.
I was just going to say, take the Kardashians for example. Wait.
Hey, that's right.
What are we talking
about? And you know what? I'm going to actually, that's a great point to make to kind of illustrate this. The part of the flaw in our system is that our entertainment complex elevates people. That very top portion that gobbles up the majority of the viewing time in entertainment and sports and that kind of thing, we have this kind of distorted view of the reality in any industry. So for example, in sports, we see that very tip of the pyramid that made it big. And so we look at, okay, how do they do it? And anyways, sorry, this is kind of off topic because they clearly, obviously those people really worked hard to get there. But we kind of tend to look at that. We look at the Kardashians and say, oh, that's what it takes to be successful. You just have to be an amazing appearance and blah, blah, blah. And because that's what sells viewing time. But the real stories of success are different, right? Those are the stories that we need to be feeding our kids, and it's more like the stories of a working parent who worked hard to get an education and now working hard at a job and seeing some success in that.
Those are the ones that are replicable, and I guess
yes.
What you're saying essentially, like, if you think about movie stars, you're like, well, they're all good looking and that's why they succeeded. But it turns out that there are actually a number of, and by a number, I mean probably tens of thousands of people that look as good as, Brad Pitt or someone like that. Brad Pitt just happens to be one that worked harder or found the way that he could excel.
And let's also own the fact that there is an element of randomness, that Brad Pitt was in the right spot at the right time with the right connections and made it happen. And the alter Brad Pitt from Winnemucca, Nevada, just didn't happen to have the same set of cards play out, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, taking that out of the consideration because that's uncontrollable, and looks don't in and of themselves. Yeah, you can't. What's replicable is hard work. It's the traits that you can develop, like you're talking about.
Yes, and let's watch these play out with that same. I brought up getting challenged before with people with a fixed mindset, and when they get challenged, they get frustrated. It threatens their identity and their worldview, and so they resort to all sorts of unhealthy and problematic coping mechanisms that lead to failure. Right. But when I've instilled a growth mindset in someone, and that's how they see themselves, then let's play it out. When I've got a kid who doesn't necessarily think of themselves as the smartest kid in the class, but they think of themselves as one of the hardest workers in the class, and that's what drives them, well, they get to a class that challenges them. And what do? Well, instead of this challenging their worldview, wait, I'm smart. Why am I struggling? What's going on? Well, struggle is not a threat to a person whose primary base quality that they see in themselves is hardworking. they're probably going to anticipate it. But even if they don't, it's not threatening them in the same way. They get there and say, "Oh, this class is hard for me. I'm really struggling. I guess I'm going to have to work hard. That's what I do." And they'll draw on the identity traits that are established in them, and it leads them to success. Take this in, let's do one in sports. A kid who's been told their whole life, "Oh, you're really good. Oh, wow, you're such a good baseball player. You're such a good soccer player." And that kid comes to feel like it's owed to them to be the starter, right? And then what happens? Well, junior year in high school, they get beat out for starting position by a sophomore, no less. What? Well, a kid with a fixed growth mindset who's just all they got is, "I'm good at soccer." What do they think? They think, "Oh, politics is going on. The coach must not like me or something, or this is bogus." And they quit the team, or they give up or whatever. They get angry. They start talking trash. But what if I've instilled the most valuable quality in that kid is kindness, and they see themselves as a kind person. They get beat out for the starting position. They're mad about it, but they draw on their identity to say, "But I'm a nice person. That's who I am. I show kindness to others, even when I'm not happy with them. I'll go and congratulate that kid who beat me for the starting position and do something classy." And then if they see themselves as a hard worker too, then they're going to double down. They're going to say, "All right, I got beat out that time, but I'm a hard worker. I think I can beat this kid for the starting position for the next game or for next year. I'm gonna work to be a starter my senior year." But the bottom line is we've set them up with qualities that will aid them instead of hinder them when they meet those challenges. Now, obviously, these scenarios are not all cut and dried. You're still gonna, with your kids, you're still gonna have problems with resilience, no matter what, right? They're still gonna struggle with their identity, no matter what. But we can tip the scales in their favor by encouraging these qualities and by maybe diminishing the amount of time we're spending focusing on fixed qualities. So again, you don't have to never tell your kid you're beautiful or you're so smart or you're so good at that. But just if you say it once, make sure the next 10 comments you say are encouraging their hard work, their kindness. And there's other qualities too. It's not like those are the only ones, but other qualities that are based on the idea that I am not a finished product. I'm never a finished product. I can continue to grow. I can continue to change. This isn't the purpose of this podcast, but in religious philosophy, this has a lot of roots in a lot of different religious traditions. This idea that you can mess up and that's okay. You can still learn from it and grow and continue and work ahead. And I think a lot of times people forget that and they give up on themselves.
Yeah, I think, for example, I'd never wanted to call you the short kid because I knew that, you had a chance to grow.
Yeah, that's right. And it never panned out. As a short guy, I'll tell you the bitterest thing is that, when you're in junior high and all the people around you are sprouting up and becoming tall and you're not, there's this little network of short people that you kind of have this solidarity with them. And but some of them are just late bloomers and they get tall too. And that's really, just a bitter pill when you run into them 4 years later and they're this hulking, huge, and you're like, "I'm still short." Yeah, but it's okay. I've got a growth mindset. I'm not the short guy. I'm the hardworking guy that just has to try harder.
Just like on Gattaca.
Yeah, that's right. I will say this. I actually feel blessed to have been. Bethany hates it when I'm saying I'm ugly. I don't suppose I'm ugly, but I am a bit deformed and short. And I actually feel like that, helped me because I had to, I had to work hard. And in sports, I always had that kind of, the short guy syndrome or whatever. But, you just had to hustle
Rudy,
more. And,
Rudy.
oh, sorry.
I was chanting Rudy.
Oh, Rudy. Yeah, Rudy. There you go. But I just what you're not able to get by on your good looks and natural prowess, and so you have to develop. You have to work hard, that hustle ethic and those kinds of things. And maybe
Right.
that's why this is so important to me. It's a secret, like unresolved psychological issue from my
Yeah,
past.
Freud would have something to say on this
Yeah, that's
about
right. He'd have
us
a field day.
addressing this. No, I did want to give another example though of like in my life where I've seen this, and that's so I try to get my children to learn the piano, and I've got my oldest two very different natural ability levels, and I've always tried to tell them and underscore to them that I don't care what your natural ability is. I want to see growth, and I try and it's natural for them to compare themselves to each other though, which is
Yeah.
how it becomes difficult to achieve that type of uh, you know acceptance of like, oh yeah, I'm getting better independent of how everyone else is doing. Like they always, children and even adults, compare themselves to others. And so
Hmm.
my son, who picked up the piano quite quickly and is quite good, um, he just had a knack for it. And my oldest daughter it just didn't come as naturally. But what I've always told her, and personally, just it is inspiring. She tries hard, she works hard,
Hmm.
and she has that never give up attitude. Um, well, okay, so maybe I sometimes have to uh, prod. I mean, everyone wants to give up the piano sometimes, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just it's hard work. It's just I will do this. She almost wills herself. It's funny because it's the same thing happened with reading when they were just little. My oldest too, like my son, picked up and started reading when he was 3, and I mean like really reading. And it's like, wow, that's truly astounding. And I thought there's no way my oldest girl is going to read when she's 3, but it's almost like she took it as a challenge. Like she saw older brother, like, oh, he's reading, well, darn it, so am I. And so she did. And so that's it's hard work can overcome a lack of some ability sometimes. And I think it's important to see that, and you don't always recognize it. Sometimes in school, you just assume that the kids getting A's are the smart kids, but
Yes,
sometimes those smart can mean more than one thing. Sometimes we can
absolutely.
use the smart kids with the hardworking kids, and that's a good thing. So
Yeah, and I think that's a very good example, and a good reminder to all of us that we need to make sure not only that it is true, but that it is understood by our children, our students, and the people around us, that our love and our respect and our goodwill are conditional not on the outcomes, but on the identity of the people, and that's where again we base their identity on these universally accessible and doable traits. And I think a perfect example with your kids where, hey, I'm not worried about whether you become a concert pianist. I know you're a hard worker, and that's what I want to see from you. And
right,
and I love you no matter how successful you are, whether you're a starter or not, whether you get an A or a C. And then you can still keep those rigorous expectations. I expect you to work hard, and
right,
if you're getting a C and we both know that's below your capacity, then we're going to have words and we're going to make changes. But
right.
kids need to know that our love for them is not based on how pretty they are, how smart they are, or even how successful they are.
Yeah. I think, yeah, and once again, coming back to school, because that's frequently, where we, uh, you said we've already talked about a bunch of the areas that we run into this, but I think about school because I know my kids are dealing with that, and you get a letter grade, and all of a sudden that becomes your identity. Like, well, I guess
Yeah,
I'm the dumb kid or something like that. I guess I'm
I'm
a
a D
failure,
student. Yeah,
whatever it is, and I've, I've grown up in a family where. Uh, to get a bad grade and or a bad test score is weird. It's unexpected and awkward in some ways. Um, and I've always tried, and I didn't, not like my parents instilled that or that was, but it was just the community. It was an outlier for the community if that happened. Um, and so I've always tried to make sure that my kids know that, like, I don't look. I want you to get good grades, but what I care about infinitely more is that you're learning, and that you learn from your mistakes,
yep.
because that's right, like what you said. You can improve that. You can always do that. You get a D on a test. It's you're not Dad's not going to yell at you. I'm going to say, well, did you study enough? Let's study more for the next one. And it's not like this is one and done. Like you blew your one shot. It's like, okay, well,
Hmm.
you can always improve. This is something to move on from. Don't stick with this, but that you're not grounded, blah, blah, blah. It's just, this isn't good enough because it's not good enough because you didn't study enough beforehand. It's not that you're dumb. It's that we didn't apply the right set of tools to this situation.
Yep. And yeah, that like you said, that continuing, what can we learn from this? What can we take from this? And really, I think that's the key. The whole learn and grow
Yep.
becomes the rally cry in every scenario.
Yep.
Um,
Here,
now I've got. Oh,
I
sorry.
thought this whole podcast was going to be about investment, Tim. And
Well, you're welcome to send your investments to me, and I will put them in a growth mindset of my own. But
Tim is a public school teacher, so Tim does not have a growth mindset.
well,
Actually,
here's the thing: since I don't have any, I've had to, make myself financially solvent with wizardry of financial wizardry. So, uh-oh,
uh,
we just tipped off the IRS. They're going to come
exactly.
sniffing. What's this
Tim's last
guy?
name is actually Madoff.
Ah! Yeah. Now, I got one last spiel. This is for you as an individual. So we talked about working with kids, but really these principles apply to us all. And sometimes we let ourselves slip into a fixed mindset, fixed state of mind. And it can, again, it always leads to failure. I'm going to give two examples for the grown-ups in the room, and that I've just seen, and that you can think about yourself and maybe your own challenges. That these, you may not have had these particular challenges, but you could consider and apply this to your own challenges. I was single for a long time and on the dating scene, and so I saw a lot of rejection, both for myself and friends and people I knew, and I think sometimes. Again, people a lot of times feel threatened in these kinds of scenarios. You go on a date, and then they ghost you or whatever, right? Or they shut you down. That is a direct hit to your identity and who you are. If I'm stuck in a fixed mindset, I begin to believe that, well, this must mean that I'm tainted goods. Nobody wants me. I'll never find someone for me, and I've seen lots of people give up on on looking for a relationship because they weren't successful over a long period of time. Eventually they just concluded that there was no one out there for them. Sometimes there's a blaming aspect that goes on. They'll say, well, it's just these social venues I go to, they're just no good. There's and anyways, but the end result is failure. Uh, but if I can approach that challenge with a growth mindset, and I can say, okay, I've been unsuccessful for a long time at getting a relationship, Um, that doesn't mean that I'm going to perpetually be unsuccessful. I just need to draw on my growth mindset qualities. I need to hard work, and kindness, and other things too. What can I do? Anyways, and I actually this personal experience for me over a long period of failure. And I was eventually able to work on myself, on some of my own flaws and challenges as a person and in the social scene,
Wait, so you
to
told
where
me
I
you
was.
didn't have flaws.
Well, that I mean, hypothetically. But no, I was able. It took a dang long time, years. But I relied on my kind of that growth mindset. I said I can learn, I can grow, and I can find someone. I will find someone, and I did. And again, it took a long time, but now I'm happily married. I've got a family, and anyways, I'm not saying that having a growth mindset means you'll be successful in everything you do. But I'm saying that these qualities lead to outcomes where success is possible, whereas fixed mindset leads to outcomes where failure is practically inevitable. One more possible scenario: job, employment. Bad things happen at work. Sometimes you can get a bad review. You get laid off, or maybe you just feel deeply dissatisfied with your work. I'll give myself as an example. I grew up, and people would always say, whenever I was in a teaching scenario, they'd say, "Oh, you're such a good teacher," and I decided to become a teacher. um, but it turns out teaching is hard. And I remember at the end of my second year of teaching, getting called into the principal's office. Teachers get called in too, it turns out. And my principal was sitting there, and my instructional specialist, both of whom I hold in high regard. They're great people, and I'm grateful to them for all the ways they helped me. But they sat me down, and they said, "Hey, your results for your students were notably lower than anyone else in the English department. Your kids had, markedly lower outcomes. So we've got some books for you to read, and we want you to work on some stuff." That was a gut punch, a total gut punch. Here I'd been led to believe my whole life, "Hey, oh, you're such a great teacher." Notice how that's a fixed mindset statement. That's who you are. Now reality was handing me something very different. You are the worst teacher in our English department. And they were much kinder than that, of course, and much more diplomatic and thoughtful and proactive in how they were presenting it to me. But I'm not dumb. I knew what it meant and what it was, and it was hard, and it challenged my identity. Um, but again, I had to fall back on that hard work, part of aspect of my personality, and say, okay, I'm going to work on this. I kind of let it make me angry a little bit, but the kind of angry that I'm so angry I'm never going to let that happen again. And I worked on teaching, and I stuck with it again for years.
And from then on, Tim, on the first day of class, would identify the weak students and kick them out of class.
That's right. Everything I can do for success. And no, actually, to be perfectly frank, that was not the last time I had that kind of experience. I remember a few years later, my principal inviting me to go and observe the classroom of a teacher who was younger and had less experience than me, which was, also kind of a hard. But again, I just kept sticking with it, and I'm not going to say that I'm this amazing teacher today. I work hard, and I think I'm a good teacher, but I've been able to make a career out of it, and I think help a lot of kids, and do the best I can, and that's how I frame it now. I'm going to share one trick that's helped me to do that. Whenever you encounter crushing failure or defeat, here's a trick that helps me. I always I look at it and I say, someday this experience is going to help me to mentor someone who's going through that same experience, and I'm going to be able to empathize with them. And by framing it that way, it helps me to bear it, the weight of that failure, a little better. and digest it and frame it in a way that I can handle it and move on and use it. What it's kind of that, what can I learn from this? So if you ever feel like you've just ruined everything, or you're just broken and no good anymore, pick yourself up and take that experience and bank it, and remember that someday you're going to meet someone else who failed in the same way, or has the same struggle, and they will be so grateful to talk to someone who understands where they're at and where they're coming from, and who can tell them how they moved ahead. So anyways, that's one thing that kind of helps to maintain a growth mindset, for what it's worth.
Awesome. By the way, as a personal aside, Tim did get me an A in our history class that we took together in college, so I can vouch for Tim's ability to at least, and I mean like in a good way, not like I copied off Tim or Tim wrote my answers, but Tim actually would review my like what are those called? It's been so long since I've been in school.
Essay?
It's called essays.
Those things, writing on paper.
And like walk me through how to fix them, and I got to be a far better writer, and I went from getting a B in that class to getting an A. So good job.
That was I really enjoyed that experience, that class. That was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry we did not teach anyone how to invest in mutual funds, or otherwise grow as a skeleton.
That's right. That next episode, it'll be for all of our senior listeners out there: fixed income versus growth bank account.
Yes. All right. But yeah, hopefully this was useful, and I think it can be useful for anyone. So thanks, Tim. I think great lessons to be taken from this, and we'll be back again next podcast.
You bet.